Palm Sunday. Today's passage from Luke chapter 19 is one of the few stories of Jesus' ministry that's found in all four of the gospel lessons, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. In preparation of this triumphal entry, Jesus' triumphal entry into Jerusalem, he invites two of his disciples to ascertain a colt, never been ridden, never been used. This is according to the Jewish custom in the ancient world. According to the custom, in order for an animal to serve a particular kinds of sacred purpose, it should not have been worked or been used or ridden upon. As I was thinking about the significance of the colt, and in some other gospels it's labeled as donkey, reminded me of a particular quote from the movie Forrest Gump. Forrest is sitting on the bus stop, engaging various people that came in through that bus stop, and he tells one person, is one of his many "my mama said" quotes. He says, "My mama said you can tell a lot about a person by their shoes, where they going, where they been." To say that perhaps a mode of transportation, whether it be that of shoes or anything else, tells a particular kind of story. It would have been common for emperors and generals to enter any kind of particular cities riding a war horse or chariot. These things signified power, dominance, empire, submission. But Jesus chooses to ride in on a colt, a donkey. It's an animal with a particular symbolism of peace, of humility, service. So, for those of us who follow these kind of things, we know that by doing so, Jesus fulfills a prophecy from Zechariah chapter 9, whereupon there's a prophecy of a king, a humble king, entering Jerusalem. Jesus does receive his particular kind of fanfare, whether it be the crowds gather offering their cloaks on the road, palm leaves, as we have seen this morning. These things symbolizes loyalty, submission, recognition, and honor to the one, in this case for Jesus. With all that said, the very title, triumphal entry, is somewhat misleading, I think, in various ways. Upon Jesus' entry into Jerusalem, if you should read on further from Luke chapter 19 onward, you'll see that Jesus shortly thereafter weeps looking upon Jerusalem, because Jesus knows what awaits his beloved disciples, his beloved children. Of course, there is an ongoing debate, dialogue, conflict between Jesus and the religious leaders that is to be had all the more. And it ends with Jesus' arrest, his trial, and Jesus' crucifixion. Crucifixion, triumphal entry, seems so divergent from one another. There's a term, a proverb, so to speak, an adage that we all have gotten to know over the years, I'm sure, and it's three letters, right? 3 words, I should say. Love is blind. Love is blind. Is it true? Love is blind. Seems cryptic, interesting, sounds somewhat silly, but there's a variety of iterations of this concept, this adage of love is blind. We hear this said, as this concept reverberated in Victor Hugo's Les Mis. In the 1800s, middle of 1800s, he writes, "Love is the foolishness of men and the wisdom of God." A couple of centuries earlier, in the late 1500s, we see Shakespeare, and he's the one that really popularizes this term. In The Merchant of Venice, through Jessica, he writes, "Love is blind, and lovers cannot see the pretty follies that themselves commit." But really the person that coined the term, love is blind, goes all the way back to 1404, Chaucer's Merchant's Tale. he writes, "For love is blind all day and may not see." And we know this, but modern researchers have come to find that this blindness of love is not just a matter of figurative speech, that there's literal truth to this. There's many, many different research. But in 2004, University College London did an extensive research about the feelings of love and its effects on our brain. And it turns out the feelings of love impacts the area of our brain that is for critical thinking. Yeah. It diminishes the area of our brain that is responsible for critical thinking. So I know what you're thinking. If you should think that, Uiyeon is not so smart after all, if you should find me dim, just know that it's only because I love you so much. How can anyone sane, anyone like Jesus, voluntarily enter into Jerusalem knowing what he knows in terms of what awaits him there? Surely Jesus knows that upon entry to Jerusalem, this is a very path that will lead to so much pain, to a particular kind of humiliation. How can he nevertheless enter into Jerusalem, especially as someone who has the power to stay away from it all? This past week, and Dr. Howe's working on a book on Dietrich Bonhoeffer. Last Wednesday, he did a talk on Dietrich Bonhoeffer. If you missed that in person, please do find that online. It is fascinating. And it got me thinking about a variety of people that we've come to know in that terrible season of our human history, various heroes that we discover. I discovered a new one recently, Irina Sendler. She was a Polish social worker, a mother. During the heat of World War II, she worked to rescue more than 2,500 Jewish children from the ghettos of Warsaw. I imagine she knew that should she continue on that path, that Nazis would eventually catch up with her. And surely enough, she was eventually caught, sent to prison, tortured. And all the while, she never gave any information of any children that she helped rescue through the years. And she said, upon being asked how she did what she did, she spoke of how the world would be a better place, much better place, with love. To choose love, even if that kind of love should lead someone like herself and others to a particular kind of demise. As I thought about Jesus' willingness to enter Jerusalem and people like Irina and others, I thought about, I want love like that to be in my life. I want to live into that kind of love. I'm not there. I'm on the path. We are on that path. I can tell you, however, I love my two kids. Yeah? I have an 11-year-old boy and soon to be 9-year-old girl. I love them in a particular kind of way. Don't get me wrong. I love you. We love each other. But can I just say that I also love my son and my daughter in a particular kind of way? There's not a place that I wouldn't go for them. There's not a thing that I wouldn't do for them. And I got to believe that if one should take that kind of love, the love that I have for my son and my daughter, and multiply that by infinity, and expand that by 8 billion plus people in the world, and we scratch the depth of divinity, that must be God. That kind of love. That must be Jesus. On this Palm Sunday, we remember Jesus entering Jerusalem for the last time, knowing full well ultimately where this path will lead for him, but he enters nevertheless. He enters for all those who are crying out, those crying out for deliverance, those crying out for the Messiah, those who gather, putting their cloaks on the path, palm leaves as he walks, those who gather because there's not a place that Jesus wouldn't go. There's not a thing that Jesus wouldn't do for you, for me, for all of God's children, for love. Friends, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord for love. Thanks be to God. Amen.